Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you are doing well. And today, before we get into the Star Wars news that I would like to cover today, I want to first give my thoughts and my prayers to the family of Stan Lee. And also I'd like to pray for the repose of his soul. Stan Lee passed away today at the age of 95. Truly an icon in Marvel Comics and also by extension in now the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. I cannot tell you how exciting it always was to see those Easter eggs, to see how are they going to bring Stan Lee into the story, how are they going to fit in his cameo, and I felt like it got better and better as each film went on, and it's just been fantastic to see, and it's really sad that that is no longer going to be the case. I know that there was a lot of speculation, at least within the MCU universe, and the story, the different groups that would talk about these things, and conspiracy theorists, that maybe they were going to try and make him, if they have not done so already, make him one of the elders of the universe, one of those, ultimate beings that has always existed and exists in all times and all places. And I think that could have been really cool for them to actually do that in a very real sense, but looks like that might not be the case going forward. But still, nonetheless, a tremendous man, a tremendous talent. So my heart goes out to him. All I can say though is at 95 years old, this man lived. This man lived a full and fulfilling life. This man lived every single day of his life and always put himself out there. He spent a lot of time going to various events for his fans and to try to appease to his fans as well. And so all I can do is say thank you, Stan, and thank you so much. And your legacy will indeed endure for a very, very long time. So rest in peace, Stan Lee. It's been great having you here, and may God bless you, and may God, of course, keep you as well. Now, with that serious note out of the way, we want to get into today's news. And as I was scrolling through the news articles, I had covered one where we had seen J.J. Abrams admit in an article saying, that Star Wars Episode 9 is all about being a course correction. So when I saw this say Star Wars doesn't need a course correction, I just had to jump on this because I just think that it's absolutely hysterical and absolutely worth talking about. So reports arose last week that Lucasfilm is approaching next year's Star Wars Episode 9 as a course correction for the entire franchise. This report comes on the heels of Solo Star Wars Story disappointing box office returns and a vocal segment of the fan base's criticism of last year's Star Wars The Last Jedi, which of course we know, very small fan base, vocal fan base, disappointing box office. These are all code words for abysmal box office, total train wreck, and a decent portion of fans who are not happy with the current state of Star Wars. Star Wars spinoff is projected to lose $50 million, and I love how this number constantly fluctuates, but let me just be honest. Let's just break this down for you guys. It is going to be $200 million. How do I know this? Because I know that it costs at least around $200 to $250 million to make the film when you count in the reshoots. When you take into account how much marketing is, it's usually about half. You add another $100 million or so to that, which brings you up to around $350, $375 million that it needs to make back. It only makes 60% of the total box office. It only made roughly $400 million. If you take about half of that, that's $200 million. Boom, you got yourself looking at around $200 million loss. Nowhere near the $50 million loss that they are trying to say with its lackluster $392 million, which is amazing because so many films coming out now. Because remember, the excuse that they gave us was, it was the time of the year it came out, even though movies have come out during the same time of the year and have done exceedingly better, at least for being profitable. And the other thing that came out was saying, it's China. China just isn't open to these types of movies, and yet we've seen movies that have been American-based do exceptionally well in China. So every single argument that they try and come out with to trying to defend why it didn't do well just easily falls on its face. With all of that being said, though, to try and say that there does not need to be a course correction is just to live in a fantasy. It is just to live in a fantasy. It is to live in a bubble. And it's just, at this point, it's just downright silly. So it says made $392 million, and now the studio is trying to reposition the franchise with audiences to ensure its long-term viability. So again, to ensure long-term viability, meaning that there needs to be some kind of course correction. The thing is, they say, the move to consciously reinvigorate and compensate for previous franchise shortcomings is a bit of an overreaction by the studio. As with any long-running series, Star Wars ran into a fair share of setbacks long before Solo or The Last Jedi endured these stumbles. Regardless, the franchise has continued to thrill veteran fans and garner millions of new followers around the world, and I cannot wait to see what they actually point to, because if they point to the Clone Wars got 6 seasons. The Clone Wars was very successful and got 6 seasons, and is arguably the best part of Star Wars since the original trilogy. So if you can't say that, oh, well, this has happened before and it's not been, no. This is not, to say that this is not worse than what's happened in the past is just downright ridiculous, and it's just downright blasphemy. I mean, it just really doesn't make any sense. Oh, the overreaction, and we've had setbacks. There have been plenty of setbacks before. I would even say if you mentioned the prequels as a setback. Look, I personally didn't like the prequels, but you know what? At least those films made money. And at least those films you can look back at and watch and say, you know what? This is kind of funny because of how bad the dialogue is. But they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to be honest, because all they care about is the bottom line. All they care about is, oh, if we write this article, maybe Disney will like it, and maybe we'll get, those press passes, or, oh, maybe we'll get some perks from Disney because we're being saying so many nice things about them. The great thing about me is that I don't care about all that stuff. If I'm offered something, great. If it's something that I agree with, awesome. But I'm not going to go out of my way to try to appease every single person to try and get sponsorships, or to try and get some kind of in on, into the various screenings that happen for critics. If it ever does happen, if I am ever invited to become a member of a critics association, and I am ever invited to receive those kind of press credentials to be able to see these movies, I will, because I would love to go see them and talk about them and share my experiences with you guys. But at the end of the day, at this point, it looks like this article is just being written for that very reason. So, for all the harsh criticism of The Last Jedi, the film was overall both a commercial and critical success, earning over $1.3 billion, $700 million less than The Force Awakens. Again, a very important fact that you try to leave out. And an impressive 91% of review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes. Yes, 91% of critics liked it, and less than 50% of fans liked it. But you love to ignore that part, don't you? You love to pick and choose your data instead of looking at everything altogether. While the film has, of course, received perfectly reasonable criticism, an independent study conducted last month revealed that a significant majority of online negative responses to the film were generated by automated Russian bots. Yes, the Russian bots are once again at it, and last time I checked, the Russian bots have no impact whatsoever on whether somebody actually goes to the theater and spends their money. This is the biggest problem with this argument. Oh, it was the Russian bots that caused this huge amount of backlash against The Last Jedi. Yes, but please tell me how that actually coincides with the fact that Solo lost money. If it's just bots that gave negative reactions, if it's just bots that are a part of the fandom menace, then why did The Last Jedi lose money? It's one thing if it would not have made a huge amount of money, would have broken even, but to actually lose $200 million as a Star Wars film, there is absolutely something more to it than just that. It's more than just the data came out. It's more than just the characters. It's more than just any other thing that you could possibly throw at it. It is obviously because fans did not want to see it. It's because fans had no interest in seeing it, which is the reason why I agree with J.J. Abrams. There needs to be a course correction. This person at CBR.com obviously could learn a lot from J.J. Abrams, could learn a lot from me and from others who've been speaking this truth for a very, very long time. Allegedly, these bots, in an effort to stir division and strife among Americans on a cultural level by attacking popular hallmarks and brands within American society, and yet they keep pointing to these, but they cannot point to a single other instance in which Russian bots went after pop culture. If this was the case, why didn't the bots go after any other movie that came out during this time period? If you want to create division, if you want to sow division, trust me, there were plenty of movies that you could have done that for. Why The Last Jedi? What about The Last Jedi made that the perfect film for this to happen? And if you dive down that rabbit hole, guess what? Oh, wait a minute. It means that the film actually really wasn't that good. And so therefore, if we're going along this whole thing of, oh, it was Russian bots, oh my gosh, hello, it was the Russian bots, welcome everybody. If you're going along that line, guess what? Okay, so then why did the Russians target it? The only logical explanation is because it was a weak target to begin with, because there was already unsettledness. There was already this unsettling feeling between the two sides, those who did not like the film and those who did. That was already existent. And why? Because the film was weak, because the film was not very good. And because of that, you could say, oh, it was amplified by these so-called Russian bots. Again, that's if you even buy into the Russian bots. But even if you do, you have to at least admit that Star Wars Episode 9 had problems, and that those problems led on and continued up until Solo, A Star Wars Story. Again, the numbers really do not lie there. validity of box office of online criticism aside, Solo did mark a financial loss for Lucasfilm in terms of box office totals, but the Star Wars brand has always been hugely profitable when it comes to merchandising and home video. But once again, this is the first time. This is, as you see, guys, this is media bias to the T. It talks about how Solo did terrible financially during the box office, but hugely profitable in the past when it comes to merchandising and home video. So what they're trying to do here is what's called a deflection, saying, oh, it maybe didn't live up to what it could have been as a movie, but don't forget, it can still make money here. The problem is that licensing has already been paid for. They don't get paid per, they don't really get paid per toy. It's usually the licensing itself is paid, so they get a crap ton of money for that. Maybe they get a commission on every toy that is sold. But even if you want to go there, guess what? Toys aren't selling nearly as well as they have been in the past. Which again means what? There needs to be a repositioning. There needs to be some kind of course correction. While Solo did not ignite the box office the way Lucasfilm and parent company Disney had hoped, it generated a whole new wave of merchandising revenue for the company while continuing the brand's active visibility to generate public. And it was not very good. See, notice how they say that there is no footnotes, there is no information, there is no data to support that claim. They put that out there saying, oh, it's been great. Toys have been selling great. When you actually take a camera and go to any toy store, guess what toys are in droves, exist in droves, have not been sold? The new Star Wars stuff. So you can go and scream to your, red in the face to try and say, oh, there's these other revenue streams, which is true. There are other revenue streams and they can still make money. But to try and say that, one, they're going to make up $200 million on a loss. They lost $200 million. They already start off at a negative $200 million when it comes to Solo. That's just a fact. If you're going to try and say that the abysmal toy sales, and yes, they might have gotten a guaranteed check from Netflix or anything else, but if you're going to try and tell me that those deals are going to add up to around $200 million just for the film to break even, I'm sorry, but you need to show me the data to actually prove that that is the case. Disney bought Lucasfilm in 2012 for a reported $4.05 billion and has already earned $4.8 billion on the combined box office totals. Exactly. And here's that number again. That $4.8 billion is garbage and is inaccurate. That is a totally inflated number. That is $4.8 billion. That is when you take the box office combined totals of every single Star Wars film that has ever come out since Disney took over, and you don't take out anything for production cost, you don't take anything out for marketing cost, and you don't take anything out for what the theater's cut is. When you do that, you get to a much closer number of around $2 billion. So they still have made money, but they are still in the red. They have still not made back their investment. And that is something that they will continue to ignore. That is something that they will continue to not care about. And then it mentions, of course, Disney's contract extension from President Kathleen Kennedy, trying to say that here is more evidence as to why a course correction is not needed. They go on to talk about Star Wars Resistance and all the other Star Wars things that are coming out. But at the end of the day, the truth remains this. The fact remains this. JJ, if it is true that the words of JJ Abrams actually came from him, that there needs to be a course correction, that episode 9 will be a course correction, then I say yes. Please do that. Please bring about a course correction, because if you don't, guess what's going to happen? Episode 9 is going to be an abysmal flop. That is just the fact of the situation. I've given you numbers, I've given you data points, and I've given you just real-world examples and real-life solutions. You, CBR.com, have come up with speculation and trying to move the conversation away from what it really should be and smoke and mirrors, which is what the mainstream media does these days. They don't care about the facts. They don't care about anything else other than putting the smoke mirrors up to try and protect their jobs and hopefully get something out of it. But guys, what are your thoughts about this? Do you think Star Wars doesn't need a course correction? I'm sorry, but last time I checked, when you have a Star Wars movie that finally loses money, you need a course correction. When you find yourself having fans that are almost evenly split down the middle as whether they like it or don't like it, and I'm not talking about hating it. If you talk about people just who say, what is your current feeling on the state of Star Wars? I would say more than 50% would say, I'm not really that into it. I like some of the movies. I like BB-8. I like these certain characters, but overall, I'm not like crazy into it. I'd say that would be the majority of people, in that situation where they just wouldn't be crazy about it. And then from that, you could take probably 20% who are more hardcore fans who say, no, this is crazy. And keep in mind that 20%, because of this economic principle that exists, that 20% usually results in the vast majority of revenue for any product. So if that 20% is pissed off, and also you got around 30% who are kind of in this middle ground, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get a Solo where people aren't going to see it. Episode 9 is sowing the seeds of its own destruction, and it doesn't help that you have people like Rian Johnson continuing to come out, bad-mouthing the fans, attacking the fans, and mocking them. Doesn't help that when you have John Boyega saying, "Good luck with your boycott, man." Well, thank you for that. As I said before, I am pro anyone that is boycott. I personally will not boycott, but I understand why anyone else would ever want to boycott. However, what I will say is that I will not support Disney Star Wars financially anymore. That is something I will not do. I will still go see the movies through other means. Again, I will buy a ticket to another movie, so that way the theater gets their cut. I will buy concessions, so that way the theater gets their cut, and then I will walk in very slowly to the possibly empty screening of Episode 9, so that way I can come back to you guys and let you know how I felt. But guys, if you like this video, please hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. You are all amazing people. These guys are crazy. But anyway, have a great day, and as always, God bless.